Welcome to LeJardin, the garden. Today's session is what we'll be calling a new year. This is going to be early winter that we're talking about. There's snow on the ground, as you can see behind me. We had, frankly, two storms, almost one after another. It usually dropped about anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. So but the accumulation over 4 days is about 5 inches of snow. And it finally closed the garden. The garden has that snow on the surface, and it's giving insulation to any of the plants that we put in the ground. We put in garlic early this year, so that should be well insulated. But we're going to be doing more insulation as we go into discussion. Now, this is a new year. Happy New Year's to everyone. The holidays are over. And we're doing some review. Now, after the holidays, we have a Christmas tree. Those who are going natural and got a natural Christmas tree, or really a pine tree, you're disassembling it, you're putting the ornaments away, and what do you do with the tree? Well, most of the communities will have pickup services, or you drop them off at the city yard or at the particular area that they're requesting that you put those trees, or you can keep them at home and you'll have certain ideas to it. First of all, if you start cutting all the branches off, not the big heavy ones, but the small ones are on the heavy branches, and you'll have a pile of anywhere from 2 to 3 feet. Now you can cover your perennials with this, and the snow won't pack it down on top of the perennials. You'll have a layer above it, which will give it some protection and also some insulation. These pine trees, when you put them together, they make a pretty good insulator. So you may want to do that. Or before Christmas, what some people have done, they put a bucket of sand, probably a 2-quart a 2-gallon or 1-gallon bucket, fill it with sand, and when they're finished, they take the tree and they put it in the sand, and they put it outdoors. And this helps the bird, gives bird cover, and you can also put food, strings of popcorn that may have what some individuals put on your trees. Keep that on and put that out into the bucket somewhere on the yard, and try to put it in the open area of the yard so we don't have hiding places for other animals like dogs or cats that would disturb or capture these birds. So just think about where you're going to put this bucket, put the tree into it, and just let it stand there. That's another option that you can use. And during the year, so what some individuals done, they've left the tree right up to April and May outside, and you'll see after a while, no water, no precipitation, the needles on the pine trees will fall off, and you'll have a skeleton of the tree. Now you can take that tree and put it in the garden, that skeleton. You can trim it out so you just have the large branches sticking out. And you can plant peas or beans, especially the climbing type, that will be used as a trellis for these plants. And very natural, and you recycle the Christmas tree. Now, also at this time, you're getting catalogs. And if you sort of did only 1 or 2 catalogs this year, or for last year, you're going to be quite surprised on the number of catalogs you're going to get, because these companies sort of sell the names, and other catalog companies will start sending you seed catalogs. And right now, I've noticed some of the catalogs they'll send you an email that they're online and ready for your review. Instead of sending you paper, you can they'll give you a online catalog. So that's another option. But remember, these catalogs have a lot of knowledge in them, and to caring for plants, the colors, the heights, the more intricate designs that they put into the plant, the colors, vibrant colors, zinnias, there's 3 or 4 pages of this color, different colors, and they're bright, almost bright fluorescent type flowers and colors. And you may want to test your seeds. If you picked out any seeds from last year and you have them, you put them in a jar and you put them aside for this year, what you may want to do is to test them. What you do is take a wet towel, paper towel if you want to. You can cut it in half or you can use the whole towel. You wet the towel, make sure it doesn't disintegrate, put it on the table, and put a row of seeds, so we'll say 5 to 10 seeds, and then flip the napkin or towel, paper towel over, and you can put another set of seeds and flip it over again and make sure the towel is wet, and just put it on a piece of cardboard and put it aside in a warm room, and you'll see what the results are. Now if you plant 10 and only 5 are sprouting, so that's about 50% of the seeds will germinate once you put those in the garden. And that's a little high. What you really want is a good, about out of the 10, you put, we'll say you want 7 of those. So you got 70 to 75% of the seeds that will sprout. And that's pretty good, especially when you double up the seeds when you put them into the ground. And you water them for 4 or 5 days, and just to make sure the soil is humid enough with the water content to have the seeds sprout and they'll come up. And then you can either separate them or just, if they're in the ground, you can just cut and thin them out. So that helps quite a bit. Now, you may want to begin it. You're going to have a lot of pages. I mean, some of these catalogs come in with 40 to 50 pages. And you don't want to order 30 or 40 packets of seeds. They can be very expensive if you look at the prices on these seeds these days. And they'll give you a packet of 50 seeds, just one packet. So what you may want to do, look at very carefully in the price area. They'll indicate that they have a mini pack. So instead of getting 50 seeds, you get just about 25, and you get it for almost half the price that you'll use, and you'll use all the seeds for that time period. So, and also pick out the seeds that you really want to grow. Now the tomatoes has almost 3 pages, but last year you got good tomatoes and you kept records of the tomatoes output. I'm assuming you did, but remember last year we talked about planting and keeping notes on the months go by on the results of the results of the products of these plants. And you talk about taste, number of days it took for the fruit to come out. Did you have any problems with these plants? If you had diseases? Now with tomatoes, they have there's a code on the package itself, and it'll give you letters of F and HC and other codes, and it'll tell you the types of the diseases that this plant is resistant to. And this can help you quite a bit, because if you just put some of the heirlooms, some of them are not disease resistant, and they'll have an attack very early in the stage, and the plant will be just dissolve away or destroy itself, and the disease will eliminate it completely. So look carefully on the disease resistant plants. And if you have 3 or 4 or 5 these abbreviations, that may be a good plant to try this year and see how it tastes. And if you like it, you may keep ordering it on and on in the years as they come. Now, if you have a lot of seeds, or when you get the seed packets back, make sure you organize them from A to C for basically peas. You may have different types of peas, varieties of peas and beans. Yellow beans, green beans. They also have white beans, that the seeds heads are white and so forth. So you may want to organize them in the proper way, so you can just go into your little seed box and pull them out and put them in the area that you plan to put in. Remember now, this is a good time to sit down and just do your planning, where you're going to put the tomatoes, the parsley, the vine crops and so forth. Now you had the materials last year when you did your planting. You created a map, and what you want to do now is move or what they call rotate your crop. So if you had tomatoes in sector A, you want to move that to B now, and what was in, we'll say, section D, you move that up to section A. So you're rotating your crop up and down. So you're going to get, this is a good time for the next 3 months to plan for your outdoor garden. And also, when you look at the outdoor garden here at the moment, there are no leaves, and the only thing that I see leaves on are the rhododendrons and the mountain laurel, and of course the pine trees behind me. So those are, but you have a lot of trees that I'm looking at that are no leaves. But this past December, we had a real hectic time period. The temperatures dropped into the low teens or even in the single numbers in some parts of the state. And we had winds up to 60 miles per hour. And areas of 60 plus were basically the Cape area and the islands. But inland, you're still looking at 40 to 55 miles per hour winds. And that takes a toll on the trees that you have. What you want to do is to step out and look up into the tree line and see if you have trees that are bent out of shape, or they're leaning, they snapped off, but they're leaning on another branch and they're just sort of holding it there. And this can be a problem during the winter itself when you have snow on top of that branch and we start getting some northeastern storms where we do have high wind velocity, and these trees may come off. Now, if some of these trees are over your house and they snapped and they're being held up by that, you may want to call a service to come in and look at it and probably take it down before it lands or on structure itself, the house structure, and puts a hole in it, because there's been, in this past December, there have been a number of trees that have come down on homes that have done damage to either a portion of it or to actually drop into the center of the home on the roof and crush that. So just be careful, get out there and see if you have any danger on the trees close to your house, that any big limbs that are overhanging your home and they look as though they're cracked someplace, or they're actually cracking, they're being held up. So just hold on to that. And also, this is a good time to look at I'm looking at forsythias. Some of these they're losing, there's no leaves on them, but it looks out of control. So basically I can prune them now, but you really don't want to do forsythias at this time because they're almost the first to bloom. And when they finish blooming, you may want to cut back or trim and give them a good trim. But other branches, like if you have vines for grapevines, this is a good time to do it because the sap is frozen and you won't have any running sap coming out of the grapevines, and you can eliminate and prepare for new growth to prepare to give you a lot of grapes. And depending on the types of grapes, any ones, the grapes are the greens and the dark red ones you can use, and just go about just trimming it, giving it an eye if you want to shape it a different way, or if you want to cut them back. Some of these vines can go really far, and you don't want them to go out of control. And you can keep them really close by, about 6 foot on either side of you of the or how high you want it to go. So that's the exterior gardening that we've done. Now, some of you may have brought some of your plants in during that time. So let's talk about interior gardening. Now, over the holidays, many of you may have gotten plants, like and most of the majority, a good 75%, the amaryllis is the plant that you get. Now, of course, the amaryllis is a bulb that sits in the pot, and what you may want to do is cut the flowers off of 2 or 3 inches from the top, cut them all off. For this time period, the plant is depleted of the minerals and energy that's needed for this plant to grow. So what you may want to do now is to give a fertilizer shot every 2 to 3 weeks, and watering when it maybe twice a week. Just test the soil and drop your finger on top of the soil. If the soil comes up with dirt, then you know that you have the plant is watered, and you don't need to water it. Then wait until you put your finger in on the dirt and you lift it, and there's no dirt on your finger. So that's one area that will show you how to do the watering. Is when it's dry soil, then you water it. You may get some cut flowers that you may put in, that you may want to put into vases as the bouquet is decreasing and now as the flowers are dying off. You may want to change them, put them in fresh water, and put an aspirin in the bottom of it. And they say it helps to lengthen the flower for probably another week or two. So you can try that. Let's see, you also want to do some checking of the plants that you did bring in for any infestation or diseases that may have occurred since you brought them in we'll say early November, since you brought them in. So check them. If they're dusty, you may want to use a cloth, or sometimes with some individual, put them in the sink depending on the size, and use the spray nozzle in the sink and just give them a quick shower and just sort of wipe the water off the top of them, and they're more refreshing. Also give them a shower, make sure, test the earth. If they need water, give them some water and put them back in the area that you use to have your plants out in the sun. Usually on the south side or the east side. East to south is a good location for these plants to get the early morning light in the midday, and the sun is sitting low now, so they're getting a lot of sunshine at this time. Now this is a good time to work with your children. You can use celery, you can use onions, you can use carrot tops. When you're preparing we'll say onions, cut the bottom off about maybe ½ inch off at the bottom, and have the child put it into a small tray of water, and make sure you keep water in the tray. And after a week or two, have the child check the tray and see if anything starts coming out of the onion, and you can see the onion actually growing at that point. You can do this for carrots when you cut the top. If the carrot has green on top, cut the top of the carrot, put that into water, and you watch the green continue to grow at that point. And even some of the lettuce you can use. Cut the bottom of the lettuce. Let the child put it into the tray, and you can use a combination of onion, carrots, and lettuce, and have the child sort of track it. Have the child come over, or if the child can read or not read but write, just have them look at the calendar. Today is such and such a date. You saw a ½ inch, and they really enjoy it. And when it comes to planting in the garden, get them big seeds. You have sunflower seeds and corn and beans that the child can handle, not the very almost microscopic seeds that you get like lettuce. The black seed lettuce, they're really small for a child, especially in any age from 3 to 6 or 7 years of age. I'd give them these large seeds to put into the ground. Just tell them a finger length apart, and you'll be surprised how they really get into the swing of things, and they love the results, showing that they can eat the results of the bean plant, and pulling the beans off and just chewing on the homegrown beans. We also have areas that we're looking at is diseases. Normally, when you go out, some individuals don't like to do the seed growing. They want to go to a nursery and buy a 6-pack, or now they're even doing 8-packs. And you want to look at the plants just first off and see if they look a sort of a rich green. If they're yellow contents, or there's black spots on them, or some of the leaves are curling up, this is a sign of a possible infestation of either a virus or a fungus or even bacteria plant. And you don't want to put that, because if in a 6-pack or 8-pack, the entire packet is contaminated. And if other plants in the same area look the same, I would say that particular review of the plants indicates that the entire table is infected. It may cause you problems, and you may be paying too much for you're bringing a disease into your garden. So be careful when you look at them. What you should see, like I say, it's almost a pure green. Look at the card that describes the tomato your plant that you're buying, or any type of plant. It'll say the disease resistance to such a fungus, such a bacteria. And again, like we discussed before, the more of these little codes that you see there, the more resistant the plant will be to these fungus and bacteria. And that's a good sign that it'll be a good, healthy product. Also, when you have the plants in the garden, make sure you do weed control, because some weeds will attract pests, especially insects. And you want to make sure you're not attracting these insects to attack your plants. I mean, you have the bean beetle, you have a whole assortment of insects that you don't want to attract. I have a problem with the Japanese beetles bags that you put it out near your property, and it attracts every beetle in the neighborhood, and you really don't want to do that. If you have an empty lot near you and so forth, you may want to put it out there to attract the beetles out to the empty lot. But be careful what you're doing. And also, we talked about rotating the crops. Make sure you're planning in the winter months that you rotate the areas of plants that you're intending to put in that area. Like we talked about the A, B, C, D. A moves to B, B moves to C, C moves to D, and D comes all the way back to the A spot. So just be aware of that. And also, you may want to, instead of attracting the bad bugs, you may want to attract the beneficial bugs, like the ladybugs, praying mantis, even the fly parasites and wasp parasites that go after certain types of insects. The wasp goes after the tomato hornworm, and it'll lay its eggs on its back. And you'll see some hornworms when you're looking through the garden. You'll see little white packets on the back of this worm, and that's basically the parasites, youngies that will be incubating and coming out, and they actually destroy the tomato worm in the process. Now, chores in the winter, you may want to look at it and make a list someplace of what you want to do. Now, in good times, or right now, it looks as though it's starting to rain again. Besides the snow we had, the rain is a little careful about. The temperature has moved up into the 40s, and they're even talking later this afternoon to be in the 50s. So that may be a good sign. So we'll just be on the lookout for that. But if you have a sunny day that the temperature has gone up into the upper 30s, low 40s, and there's no snow on the ground, go out into the garden and look. We'll say for a perennial garden, go around your perennials and see if any of the perennials have been lifted out of the ground. Sometimes when the changing of the weather from very cold to very warm, the ground will move up and down. So what you want to do is to go around to the edge of the perennial and just press down with your foot to sort of push them in. And you actually feel the plant being pushed in. So that was indicating that the plant was pushed up. So what you're doing now, and then put the mulch on top of that, again, if you put the pine needles or any straw that you have. Now, for those who have gardens along sidewalks, in other words, you may have a 1 foot to 1.5 foot, and you put in maybe annuals or perennials to give color to your sidewalk as you walk up to the home. Be careful if you're using salt. Salt is harmful to the roots of the plants, and perennials that you planted in that area and you put a pretty heavy salt cover during the winter, it will probably get into the soil around the plants and actually kill them. And you'll be sort of shocked when you see all the plants are just brown or light tan and they just died. But they're being overcome by the salt, so you want to eliminate it. There are others times of salt, the calcium chloride and potassium chloride, that you can probably get in your Home Depot stores in that combination. I'm not sure now with all the snow coming that we have if they have run out at this point, but you may want to take a side trip. And right now at this time they're having a lot of sales, almost 40 to 70% sales, depending on the amount, the time of the year. If you're going there in late February, early March, they may be very short of products that you were looking for a couple of months before. But take a trip down and just see if they have these potassium or calcium chloride salts that will also melt the product. So let's see. Also, we talked about pruning damaged plants. If you have many of your plants that are been sort of snapped or heavy snow on them, and that's another thing. When we really have heavy snow, you'll see the branches and trees just sort of sag. What you want to do is take a long broomstick, just get out there and just shake that snow off the plants, and you'll see the plants come right up and they'll stand up. So instead of leaning over, and sometimes they get too far, they will snap at the bottom or midway, and they'll leave you with a lot of jagged edges and that you may have to get out there to prune anyway. But look at it and try to help the plants by removing the snow from them and give them a little more relief. Again, planning for the garden. And if you're taking notes last year, sit down with a glass of wine in front of the fireplace if you have one, and just read and see what you like. And then go back into the catalogs and order those seeds, or have a list ready, prepared to go to the nursery and to select the ones that you want. Now, let's go into the next topic. Now, this topic will say, since you've been getting all of these gifts of plants and so forth, or you're purchasing plants, and if you have animals in the household. Now, some of these plants are toxic to cats and dogs and birds, and so you have to be careful. Now, the plant aloe, carnations, daisies, eucalyptus, hydrangeas, tulips, and daffodils. Now, the tulips and daffodils are pretty well coming out of the ground, and you may be clipping them and bringing them into house for displays. So be careful if you have cats and dogs. Now, usually you're planting or putting the flower arrangements up high, just out of reach of dogs, but make sure the dog doesn't sort of stand up and knocks it over. And cats, well, they jump everywhere, even on top of bookcases. So just be careful where you put these plants or bring these plants into your homes. Now, the daisies and eucalyptus and hydrangeas, that's more towards the holidays, and we talked about taking care of those during the time period. And frankly, you can actually replant the amaryllis in your garden. Just put them in the section area, and they'll actually blossom out. and the plant grows to a good, let's see, it was at least 2 feet when I had one year, and you put it out in the garden, and it grew another foot and a half in the garden, in this secluded area in the sun, and it watered through the sprinkling system, and it had another bush in the garden. Now, we have important friends out there, the birds. I've noticed over the years a large population of birds have, or a large species of birds, a number of species of birds are staying over for the winter. So what a lot of people now are doing is basically feeding them. Now that has become a problem in certain areas of the state. Black bears that we're noted for here in Massachusetts have been coming down or coming out of hibernation earlier than usual, and they're finding food in your backyard, in the bird feeders. They will come up and actually eat the seeds right out of the trays that you have. Now, if you have special containers that you're putting the seeds in, they will either tip them or just sort of open them up and just gobble down that food. But just be careful if there are bears reported or other coyotes being identified within your particular area, or there's alerts out that bears don't feed the bears or leave trash out to attract the bears. Just be careful of them. And when you're placing, if you don't have that problem, just place try to place the feeders in an area that you don't have camouflage areas or big bushes areas that cats or other animals can hide in and pounce upon the birds while they're feeding. So pretty in an open area that if you look out the window and you'll see a cat sitting under it trying to jump up and grabbing a bird and so forth, you can get out there and throw a snowball at it. So also the feeding. They love the birds, and different varieties of birds like different types of feed that they get. Black sunflower seeds are good. Then the sunflowers, if you had sunflowers over the summer and you didn't take any seeds out, just put the entire sunflower on sort of try to mount it onto a tree or to a particular fence and let the birds come in and hang on it. They like corn, and another thistle seeds is another product that they like. Well, that pretty well covers it for early winter. This is snow just coming down, the garden's covered. Just be careful, just relax, read. Catalogs from the seed companies contain large amounts of gardening information, and even horticultural magazines. If you go into any of the bookstores, you'll see Horticultural Center, and there must be at least 13 or 14 different varieties, and lots of books you can pull out from the library on gardening. So just be aware of that. Now, one of the other things, for those who have plants in the house on the windowsill, when cold weather comes in, especially like we had here, where we had single numbers and we had temperatures in the teens and low 20s at night, you may want to push the plants back or take them off the windowsill overnight, or you can get a piece of cardboard and put it between the plants and the window, so that the leaves are not touching the window. And that will help them not get freeze on their leaves and so forth. And some of these indoor plants are all tropical, and a good very cold night against the window can just wipe out the entire plant. So be aware that if you're pull the plants away from the window or put cardboard in, and if this is going to be continuous for the week, I mean, we have cold spells. This cold spell lasted for almost 3 nights in the low teens and single numbers. You're going to need like some of these Amazon type cartons, you open them up completely and just drop them in front of the plants against the window, and that helps out a lot. So, and also in the fall, we talked about putting away the pesticide containers, the fertilized containers, and even the also if you had any disinfectants that you were using in glass containers, or they were especially liquid form, and you stored them away. Now, if you stored them in the garage, outside, not attached to the building, it may get very cold inside. So what you may want to do is to check the box and see if any of the containers cracked and any of the liquid has frozen at this point. And because that can be a problem when it gets warmer, that all of a sudden you'll have a rush of material, toxic materials, flushing into your garage or into your cellar, if your cellar is cold at night. So just be careful of it. And the holiday's over. Relax. You may have to work if the snow comes, but hopefully it'll be a good year. I'm Robert Boissel, and this is LeJardin, the garden.